Welcome back into the Tide Talk podcast on the Believe Podcast Network. I am your host, Stacey Blackwood, alongside Jake Thomas. Jake, what's up, buddy?
Man, I'm doing great. Just you know, uh, had a been working a lot, been busy, but glad to come back tonight and chit chat and review the Mississippi State game.
Yeah, sorry, we're kind of late to this in the week getting this out, but uh, both our schedules are busy, so we just kind of can do this when we can. And we hope to be back in a couple days to kind of give a preview show of the Tennessee game coming up this Saturday. But like Jake mentioned, tonight's episode is going to be about recapping that Mississippi State victory for Alabama, a big win for the Tide, and we're
Mm-hmm.
going to talk all about that here in just a few minutes. But first, I got to tell you about our friends at BetOnline.ag. The football season is back. Both the NFL and the college football season are in full swing. The NBA is starting up this week. Playoff baseball is going on right now, so there is plenty of stuff to be betting on, and BetOnline remains your number one spot for all your online sports betting needs. So head on over to the new and updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use promo code BELIEVE50 to receive your bonus. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Jake, we're going to talk about this Mississippi State game in a minute. But first of all, if you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now and jump in the comment section and tell us about your thoughts on Alabama's victory over Mississippi State. All right, Jake, let's just dive right into the game. We're going to do a quick recap show. Like we said, sorry it's late in the week. You'll probably be listening to this on Thursday, but it kind of is what it is. But Jake, let's just talk about this Mississippi State game. Uh, there was a lot of questions that needed to be answered in that game for Alabama. They're coming off that tough loss to Texas A&M, and the defense struggled in that game. The offense struggled at times in that game. So it was really it was really going to be a focus for this team to kind of get back to not just on the winning track, but kind of playing that to that Alabama standard. How do you think the team did that this past Saturday against Mississippi State?
They surprised me, to be honest. They come out and they look like a totally different team, to be honest. And one of the key points, and I mentioned that my defensive MVP was going to be Will Anderson. I mean, he talked about all week about that Alabama standard, but Will also knew that he's going to have to go out there on the field and prove it. 4 sacks in the game. I mean, they double teamed him, they triple teamed him, and he still got back there. I mean, that dude's a freaking nature, and I'm glad he's on our side because I'd hate to try to block him if I was an opposing team. But and another thing that I also noticed was it seemed like we was calling a little bit more zone plays, and we was not having our backs turned towards the quarterback, and that allowed Battle to have a pick six and all that. I mean, because to me, if you see where the quarterback's throwing it at, you can adjust and make a move to where the ball is at. But if you got your back behind, you're supposed to be looking behind you when you're running with the wide receiver. Just so we don't do that. But it was good. It was a good team effort, and they played outstanding defensively. And what's so crazy is I heard this after the game, but in this air raid type offense, Alabama has yet to give up a touchdown to Mississippi State since Mike Leach has been there. I mean, think about it. They were 41-0, I think, last year,
Right.
and 49-9 this year, and they only had 3 field goals. So, I mean, that's pretty incredible, I think.
Yeah, I mean that's the first that that it kind of jogged my memory. You're right. That's no touchdowns allowed to Mike Leach in his
Mm-hmm.
first 2 years at Mississippi State. Yeah, the defense played great, man. They kind of kept everything in front of them, which we talked about last week in our preview show. Was that the defense? Their task was to keep the plays in front of them and make the tackle in open space, and they done that, and they really did better than that. They created turnovers. Josh Jobe got the early pick on the first possession of the game for Mississippi
Yep.
State, which led to a John Mechie touchdown reception. And then, like you mentioned, Jordan Battle was able to get a pick six. Then he got another pick later in the game. So
Mm-hmm.
the defense was able to make plays. And like you mentioned, Will Anderson was just completely unblockable. 4 sacks in the game. him and Derrick Henry are two people that I'm not sure are from the planet Earth. So
You ain't kidding.
it's it was an unbelievable performance by Will Anderson, and if we continue to get that, I'm not saying that type of production each and every week. 4 sacks is not realistic, but when he affects the quarterback the way he did, I mean, it makes everybody else's job easier on that defense, including the defensive backs.
Absolutely, and they played outstanding. Toa Toa finally, it seemed like he had a great game. He had 14 tackles, I believe.
Yeah, he was all
Uh,
over the field.
he was so he got the defensive honors, but they should have gave it to a co-defensive to Anderson too, because I mean 4 sacks is incredible in today's game.
Yeah, it was some national award that awarded Toa Toa with the defensive player of the week. I can't remember which one it was,
I
but
can't either.
I mean, how it was not Will Anderson, I have no idea. But I mean, that's not no jab at Henry because
No,
he played a heck of a game, like you mentioned, 14 tackles. But the defensive side of the ball, I guess what I liked the most was they kind of got back to that playmaking ability. That's
you're
kind
right.
of what the Nick Saban defense has kind of been made of over the last several years, is the ability to make plays, splash plays. We talked about that last week. I thought that Malachi Moore would kind of be a guy to make some splash plays in that secondary, but it turned out to be Jordan Battle, and
Hmm.
it's good to see Battle do that. He hasn't really been a playmaker for Alabama his entire career. I mean, he's just been a solid safety, but he was really an impact player against Mississippi State, and that was good to see. And the back end of that defense probably played its best game of the season.
Absolutely, and I seen it during the game. I think at that time it was 87 turnovers and under Saban on the defensive side of the ball. And what? So that's like the most in the NCAA. But I think that was before there was another pick in the game from Battle. So I mean, it's incredible. I mean, that defense. It has. Though we talk about it has the potential to be great, and I think they took the step forward to be the defense I think they can be. And I mean, they're going to have to. They still got a lot of tough games coming up. We're going to need them. So
Yeah,
I think,
and we'll talk about this in a couple of days, but the matchup this weekend with Tennessee is going to be different because of their tempo and the quarterback's ability to run the ball. So it's going to be a different type challenge for that defense. So I will be interested to see how that kind of looks. And like I said, we'll talk about that in a couple of days. But uh, wrapping up the defensive side of the ball, Jake, really was a great performance from those guys. Probably their
yeah.
best of the season. That they got to Will Rogers all day long,
Hmm.
and it really affected his play. And I was, and even in the red zone, even on the drives that the defense was allowing some yards, they hunkered down in the red zone and forced field goals. That's what you want. I mean, it
Right.
really was a textbook performance by the defense when it comes to kind of playing against the modern college offense. So
Yep.
a really good performance by the defense, and we can kind of wrap that up and kind of move on to the offensive side of the ball, Jake. And uh, much like the defense, a much better performance than the week
Hmm.
before, more consistent, more balanced, and really just a strong performance from Bryce Young and all those guys.
Absolutely. And your offensive MVP was John Mechie, and
Yeah.
my gracious, he showed out. I mean, it seems like he finally got what was deserving for him, because several games, he's just had been himself, it seemed like. But what impressed me on the offensive side of the ball was it seemed like we saw an emergence of Roydell Williams. I mean, that kid is going to be a stud in this offense. And I mean, Roydell in that game had 11 carries for 78 yards. I mean, that is 7.1 yards per carry. And I mean, I know Brian Robinson's still the guy, and Jason McClellan would have got those reps if he wasn't injured. But now, since unfortunately he's out for the year, Roydell's the next man up, and he took advantage of it, and it was great to see. I feel like offensive line played their best game of the
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
So it just seemed like Alabama standard is back. It seems like to me. So and that's great to see.
Yeah, you mentioned Roydell as a guy who kind of stepped up, with his role increasing. Another guy, and I thought this is where you're going, was Trayshawn Holden Jake at wide
Yes.
receiver. I mean, he had 3 catches, I believe, for 70 yards and a touchdown, of course. And Alabama needs another wide receiver to kind of count on. John Mechie, like you said, once again, he showed up finally, had his first 100-yard receiving game of the season. Jameson Williams done Jameson Williams type stuff. They didn't target him a whole lot, but he catches that first pass of the second half and just outruns everybody to the end zone for a 75-yard touchdown.
That was
His
amazing.
his speed is unreal, man. But
That was
yeah,
crazy.
getting Trayshawn Holden to kind of step up and have maybe an increased role in this offense is huge because right now Cameron Latou and Jaleel Billingsley are struggling a bit for whatever
Yeah.
reason. But so Alabama needs another option to throw the ball to. Bryce Young does. So uh, I'm with you. I'm excited that Roydell Williams and Trayshawn Holden kind of showed up and showed out in their limited role this past Saturday, and I bet moving forward they're going to have an increased role. And like you said, Brian Robinson has been that bell cow. And you could tell late in that game he was starting to wear down a little bit, and Roydell was able to come in and finish that game for Alabama, and
Yeah.
he plowed over a couple dudes there in the secondary from Mississippi State too. So I'm excited about the prospects of Roydell Williams kind of being that number 2 back behind Brian Robinson Jr. And we hadn't talked about
Absolutely.
Bryce Young, Jake.
Yeah.
Man, the dude's just steady. He just every game is pretty much the same. He's going to complete around 70% of his passes for 300 yards and a
hmm
few touchdowns, and it's just a walk in the park to him, man. He makes it look so easy.
Yeah, being a newcomer and a starter in this offense, I mean, he's latched on day one, and I mean has been lights out. There's a lot of people that was doubting him beginning of the year, and I don't hear anybody doubting him now. I mean, he's in the running for Heisman as a sophomore,
Yeah.
and in his first season, and I mean that's great to see. But a funny moment was I don't know exactly if it was designed, but when we got down there to the goal line and we got lined up in shotgun formation, you know, and then we called a timeout. Somebody told me at work, there's like, I guarantee Saban called that timeout
Oh,
because he did not want to shoot a shotgun. He wanted to get in, a jumbo package and run that daggone
well,
ball in.
Coach Saban talked about that in his
Oh,
in
really?
the in
Okay.
the press conference after the game.
I missed it.
He was asked about it, and he kind of laughed it off. He's like, "I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but we were in that situation last week, and we didn't call timeout, and we threw the ball." So
Yeah, that's
he was beaten. He said he didn't want to throw anybody under the bus, but he really threw Bill
yeah,
O'Brien under the bus there. But
yeah.
uh,
I mean, when you
but
got Brian Robinson, you got to run that
yeah,
daggone
I
ball.
mean, dude, if they stop you, they stop you.
Yeah,
Um,
run it 4 times. If they stop at the goal line, good for them.
right. But yeah, this Bryce Young, just another a strong performance, man. He just continues to build on an incredible season. I'm fixing to pull up his stats for the season just to kind of look at those because he's been outstanding. He's
Yeah.
got 2,082 passing yards on the year,
Sheesh.
24 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions.
That's amazing.
That's crazy, ain't it? That
And
is
one of
just
those
crazy.
interceptions was kind of, should have never happened. I mean, it went right through Williams. Actually hit Williams in the chest and just bounced
Right.
up.
Yeah.
So,
He's completing 69.6% of his passes. And, you know, I think Latou had one last week, but there wasn't any drops last week other
yeah,
than that one from Latou. So maybe that's starting to get cleaned up. And by the way, man, this is going to be a little bit off topic, and we'll just spend a couple minutes on this, Jake. How in the world did they overturn that catch from Slade Bolden?
I, I don't know. That was,
There was not
I
one
don't, no,
shred of evidence that ball even touched the ground.
no. I mean, Slay got his hands under that
And
ball.
and the call on the field was that it was a catch.
Yeah, and they overturned it.
That's what I mean. It's my Jake.
I mean,
We've talked about it between us and off air. We've talked about it on here. But SEC officiating is it's a joke. It's a
it is.
bad joke. It's a bad
It
joke,
is.
man. And
Yeah.
and I would be ashamed if I was Greg Sankey. Josh Pate from Lake Kick mentioned that this is the SEC is $1 billion business. Really, is what it is.
Absolutely.
There's no reason they should have a nickel and dime officiating crew. And he's
No.
exactly right. It's sad, Jake, from what happened in Knoxville to just the overall performance from the SEC officials, it's just poor, man. It's not good. You know, the inconsistency on the pass interference calls. I mean, the ball can be thrown into the stands 20 yards out of bounds, and they're going to throw a flag on a guy. I just that has to stop.
Yeah.
The targeting rule is pathetic, Jake. They're ejecting guys for making a football play when they have no intent to try to hurt anybody. There's no consistency with that call. And then replay. We waste probably 30 to 45 minutes in every single game on replay, and they still don't get it right.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, I would rather them just do away with replay, and I'm willing to live with the way the guys call it on the field.
Right. Exactly. And they want to come together and have a meeting about it. That's fine. But I mean, there's no reason to go to replay about it.
It's
But
when they're not getting it right. I mean,
right.
I bet they're 50% on that. It's pathetic, Jake. I don't know how it's went this long without being addressed. And I'm going to say one more thing, and this is kind of my soapbox on this. We don't have a problem having 19-year-old Bryce Young sit in front of a microphone and ask tough questions after getting beat by Texas A&M. Why are 50-year-old grown men not answering questions in front of the public about the way they officiated the game and the way they used the replay during a game? Why are they not held accountable in the public eye like 19-year-old Bryce Young is?
Exactly. They just say no comment and go on.
I mean, that's Jake. That's wrong.
It is.
And that's one reason I guarantee you, if there was public accountability, the fans would not fuss as much as they do about the officiating. But Jake, there's no accountability.
Right.
So it's really frustrating because, they miss a call and it's just, oh well, we missed it.
Yeah.
And that's the end of it.
It is.
Who cares how it affected the game? I mean, it's sad, Jake. Like Josh Pate said, the SEC has too much money and is too powerful to have the piss poor officiating that they have. It's unacceptable. And it's not just football; it's basketball too.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they're a multi-billion-dollar business, and I mean, they can go out and get the best of the best. I mean, we're the best conference out there. Why can't we have the best officiating?
Yeah, I mean it's sad.
It is.
I could talk about this for years.
I know,
but
I mean, it's been going on for years. It ain't just this year.
And that's the thing. Like what happened at Tennessee. I'm not making any excuse for what their fans did because that's inexcusable.
Right.
But Jake, it's also inexcusable for how the officials and the replay booth officiated the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not just talking about the fourth down call there.
Right.
I'm talking about overall, Jake. That's unacceptable too. If we're willing to say what the Tennessee fans did were unacceptable, then the SEC officiating office needs to say, you know what, how we performed in that game and across the other games in the SEC is also unacceptable. And here's what we're going to do to make sure we don't do that anymore. And here's what we're going to do to make sure we're better than what we were last week. But there's none of that.
No.
So it's just
zilch.
It's pathetic. It pisses me off when I think about it. We talked about it when we were watching a show there on the Stephen Willis Digital Network a minute ago on their live chat, Jake, about how, if it's 3rd and 10, you find your one-on-one matchup, just throw it up. The quarterback throws it. There's going to be a pass interference call. You get a first down. I mean, It's just it's pathetic. The defensive backs can't breathe on the wide receiver. The wide receiver can push a guy to the ground. He never gets called for nothing.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear the crap about the player safety thing and the targeting rule because they allow running backs to lower their heads like they're bulls. And it's not about player safety, Jake. It's about the perception of player safety.
Right. Yeah. And so, like you said, the targeting, and we mentioned this, but or the team down south of us, that Auburn Penn State game, that guy got called. The Auburn guy got called for targeting, but he was making a play. If he would have not made
the dude
tackle,
scores.
The dude scores. So now you're telling players not to make a tackle and let the guy score? That's not football.
And Jake, you can go. I don't remember which play it is. It happened in the Mississippi State game, and I'm glad they didn't call it because I don't want this type of play called. But a Mississippi State defender hit Bryce Young the exact same way that Malachi Moore hit Calzada in the A&M game, and nothing was said, nothing was called.
Was that the one when Bryce threw the touchdown pass?
I think it was. I think it was one of his touchdown passes. Yes.
Yeah,
It's mind blowing how
it is.
inconsistent and how bad the officiating is in the SEC.
Yep. And I mean, the targeting rule, it states if you lead with your head, your shoulders, and all that. But in the A&M game, they called that against Malachi, but that A&M guy on, I think it was Mechie maybe, when he hit
Billingsley,
Billingsley.
Billingsley.
Yeah, it was against Billingsley. I mean, they said he led with the shoulder. Well, ain't that in y'all's rule of targeting? It hit Billingsley in the helmet, so and that
I
was
mean,
not called.
it was literally helmet to helmet contact.
Yeah,
Look, I don't want that called. That's just
no,
I don't want that called. But that I also don't want the one on Malachi Moore called either.
right, exactly.
So it's just it's that has to be revisited. That rule does. They need to either go to like how the NBA does it with flagrant one and flagrant two, so a guy's
I would love that.
not ejected from the game for love tapping the quarterback.
Right.
I mean, just give me a break. What a
Um,
joke.
I mean, I know dudes now are a lot bigger and stronger, but we started out playing football in freaking leather helmets. So
I
I mean,
just
there's more protection in helmets than there ever has been, and I mean, we can't even touch a quarterback without getting a pass, roughing the passer
look. I want the
anymore.
game of football to be as safe as possible.
Right.
But if anybody is naive enough to think that you're going to eliminate head injuries in football,
Hmm.
I mean, I'm sorry. There's no other word for you than idiot. You're an idiot.
Right.
I mean, in fact, I'm willing to bet the worst type of head injuries is when a guy gets slammed down on the ground and he whiplashes his head and his back of his head bangs against the ground.
Yeah. I mean,
So
I've seen Derrick Henry stiff arms probably hurt some people because I mean he don't just do a basic stiff arm. I mean he's throwing them 10 feet in the air and 10 feet out of his way. So
don't bring that up. They'll ban stiff arming. No, they
I
won't.
know
That's for the offense. They won't ban that.
yeah
It's all about taking away the advantage for the defense.
that's true. That is true. Yep.
Anyways, we rambled on that for about 10 minutes, but really good performance from Alabama against Mississippi State, Jake. Uh, I guess what I'm most proud of is the best way to say it is how they come out with the right mindset and the right intensity. You can tell the team was focused and ready to play, and you can tell it meant a lot to them to get back on the field and kind of prove some doubters wrong and prove that they are one of the best teams in college football.
And when they're on their A game, they are. I
Right,
mean,
right.
there's no doubt about it. And that they play, with that passion that they played last Saturday night, they're going to win out, and they're going to be it's going to be a mano on mano matchup in
Yeah.
the SEC championship game. So with
Yeah,
Georgia,
and I'll be honest with you, this Tennessee game and probably the Auburn game are the two games that kind of I guess worry me the most. The Auburn game because of where it's being played at,
right?
and in the Tennessee game, I don't think Tennessee can beat Alabama, but they can scare Alabama, especially if Hooker's healthy because he's a dynamic quarterback. They run a fast-paced offense. Alabama really hadn't played an up-tempo offense this year outside of Ole Miss, and Alabama got up on them and kind of took Ole Miss out of their rhythm. So
Right.
it's going to be a different top test for Alabama. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch that game. And Tennessee's kind of a sneaky good team. They really had a chance to beat Ole Miss last week.
Yeah, and like you said, I think it all comes down to if Hooker is healthy, and if he's
Right,
healthy,
right.
but on the flip side, if he is healthy and he's playing, this is even if he's not, this is a chance for Alabama to prove that the defense is that elite defense. I mean, they can come out and just absolutely dominate like they did against Ole Miss, and maybe get back on the right track. And it seemed like I felt like there was early in the season there was a lot of me 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 me. It's all about me. But now Will Anderson and some of the guys, Mathis, some of the guys on the defense finally saying, this is a team. It's a team effort. And they showed that battle as well. They showed that Saturday night. So I think the me attitude is getting out, and it's finally about the team attitude, and that's what I'm glad to see.
Yeah, and a couple quick injury notes for those who haven't gotten a chance to catch Coach Saban's Wednesday night press conference. Drew Sanders is probably not going to play again.
Yeah.
Byron Young is a little banged up, but he's practiced this week, so it looks like he's going to have a chance to compete this Saturday. And DeMarco Helms is kind of still having some lingering effects from his ankle injury that he suffered in fall camp. So that kind of explains, the way he's kind of performed this year. And of course, we saw
Hmm.
Daniel Wright take his place last week against Mississippi State, and he done a really good job. Daniel Wright probably played the best game of his career
He did.
last week
Yeah.
against Mississippi State. So uh, that was nice to see. So we'll kind of see what Helm's status is Saturday against Tennessee.
Hmm. That Tennessee matchup's going to be fun, and of course, we're going to talk about it probably Friday night. We'll do a live show, but I I got my golf already. No, I'm just kidding. So no. But anyway, it's going to be a
Oh
fun
man.
show.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Yeah, we look forward to that. Make sure you are subscribed to the podcast, guys. Whether it's on YouTube, Apple, leave us a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. Jump in the comments on YouTube. Share with your friends. Share in all your Facebook groups, and we would greatly appreciate that. Once again, this episode, like all of our episodes, is brought to you by BetOnline.ag. We appreciate that partnership that we have with those guys through the Believe Podcast Network. Jake, really good win for Alabama last week. I hope they can carry that momentum into the Tennessee game. We're going to talk about that more a little later this week. But for right now, we're going to sign off. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.